let's get into our first discussion now. From December 2017 to September 2018, the number of unemployed Nigerians decreased by 3.3 million.
According to the National Bureau of Statistics, the number of unemployed Nigerians rose from 17.6 million to 20.9 million from the fourth quarter of 2017 to the third quarter of 2018. Now, let's take a look at the unemployment rate for the past 5 years. In the third quarter of 2017, it was 18.8%. In the fourth quarter of the same year, it rose to 20.4%. Now, in the first quarter of this year, 2018, it rose from, to 21.8% to 22.7% in the second quarter and 23.1% in the third quarter of this year. Well, those numbers, I'm sure, would be dizzying, but you need to pay a lot of attention to.
Yeah, exactly. So one can understand the dynamics of what we're talking about. Now, out of the 20.9 million people who were unemployed, 8.77 million of them were first-time job seekers. 0.93 million unemployed because they lost their jobs, and 11.1% were working for less than 20 hours.
All right, just joining us is Remi Dairo. He's a productivity expert. And of course, Charles Ideho has been with us already all morning. He's a journalist and social commentator. All right, 20.9. Thanks for joining us. Good morning. And the compliments of the season.
Exactly. Yeah. And not forgetting economist Oluwashina Olubu on Skype.
Okay.
Oluwashina, good morning. Thanks for joining us. He's joining us from Canada.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. All right, let's begin with you, Shina Olubu, all the way in Canada. Obviously, you're enjoying your Christmas already. If it's not too cold.
It's white Christmas there.
Yeah. What's your take on this new figures coming from the National Bureau of Statistics? 20.9 million Nigerians are unemployed, and with a population of about 193 million, what does that mean?
Thank you. To say it is very disturbing is to say the least, or to try to put it mildly. Any country that has unemployed people numbering about 20 million should never sleep with their eyes closed, because if you look at the consequences of having about 20 million people roaming about the street without having one or two things to do. Literally speaking, it's often said that an idle mind is the devil's workshop. So I think that ideally, if we are serious people, our government should not be able to sleep with their two eyes closed, and neither should citizens be able to sleep with their two eyes closed. Because in terms of consequences of having those people, you're likely to have more crime rate, increase in crime rate. They're likely to have restiveness. That is why it is easier for politicians to recruit people to fulfill their bidding, because sometimes you wonder why it's easy for people who want to go into doing things that are ideally against the rules and norms of the society to recruit people. But it's easy for them, because if anybody, for whoever does not have any source of livelihood, it's easier to get the person brainwashed or lured into all manner of social vices. I expect that coming election, without trying to be a prophet of doom, that we're likely to have. It's not to say that we have not had it. We are not going to have any departure from what it has been. If anything, it might get worse in terms of political thuggery. We might see more restiveness during election. We are likely to see increase in the space of. I've talked about crime, and I mean, that's basically what it is. So it might not resonate with us if you just call those numbers in terms of numbers, but we would understand what the numbers are saying if you try to put human beings behind those numbers in terms of saying that these are people who are supposed to be breadwinners in their family. These are men who are supposed to be fathers or husbands or uncles or aunties to people who have one need or the other.
Okay,
that's what
people,
it is.
not just
real
statistics.
people. I like that point you made there. Now, Remi, let me come to you on this. I know you've been following this and trying to decipher how, like he said, these are real people. But when we're talking about numbers, it looks like, okay, numbers. But when you narrow it down to the people, the Adeshina or the Benga or the Abubakars and all of that, it begins to make the real sense. Now, the president was presenting the budget 2019 to the National Assembly, was ruling out some of his progress and achievements he has made, especially in the area of employment, and then, you know, painting a picture of the fact that things are bright and so on. And just while he was doing that, the National Bureau of Statistics was also reeling out its own figures, saying, and there's a big contrast between what the president is projecting and saying and what the NBS is saying. What do you make of all of this?
Yes, I think it is a political season, so every statement, every action have a counter reaction from this side and all, and then if you're not careful, technically you're not able to find out what exactly is going on. I heard the minister speaking yesterday. They've made a lot of progress in employment. They've employed more people in percentage than the former government and all that. See, true, they've done some stuff. But the question is, what we have on hand is emergency. It's a time bomb. What they are doing, they are trying, but it cannot meet up with the level of unemployment every year. And one of the points
I mean, when you say what they're doing, are you talking about the social intervention programs,
yes,
the NPower programs and all of that? Because the question I want to ask is how effective,
yes, so that's what I'm going to.
Are these programs?
So they have the number, and I say, okay, we've given money to such number of people, we've empowered this and all that, you know. It's a minute, very small to the capacity of the unemployment of this nation. It's an emergency. Now, the vice president, with due respect, was going to the market giving people money. That is physical exertion of energy in the 21st century. You know, I mean, going about giving and shaking them. How many people do you want to reach? Can you reach my grandmother in the village? Can you reach all the people that need the money? And then the question is, 10,000 naira, how much poverty or how much employment have we been able to give in through that? So there is emergency on ground. So what I will say is this, so that we will not particularize this, is an emergency problem or challenge need emergency solution. We need to declare a state of emergency on unemployment. It is not political, rhetoric. Rhetoric and say, okay, we have done
well. The President Muhammadu Buhari, while laying out the budget 2019, said the three aims of this, budget is to achieve inclusiveness, sustainability, and of course, to pull Nigerians out of poverty. And then you have a population of youth, and the youth unemployment level about 65%. You wonder how realistic this is, or how achievable this is, even.
Well, Remi has said it. These are political statements that are geared towards whipping off sentiments and whipping off support of the electorate to ensure victory for the ruling government. There's even while you were reading your statistics, there's a portion you also forgot. There's also the 18.8 or so, the underemployed.
Underemployed,
exactly. Yes. That's we need to add. We need to tie that to it. So when you add it to the 20.9, you're almost getting about 40 million
people who are not working 40
for about 20 hours
every hours a week.
So you're almost getting about 40 million people that they are not sure of when the next meal will come. And if you continue with that regime, what you are doing is that you are breeding an army of people who are going to be a menace to the society, who are easy tool in the hands of politicians who want to do things that are against societal norms, if you understand what I mean. So what government should be doing, as Remi has said, is to declare a state of emergency in that aspect. Begin to arrest the drift. How would they do that? First, we were growing up in those days in Lagos in the 90s, where we had this so many textile factories. A single textile factory can employ all cadres, can employ no fewer than about 5,000 people. Then you now have about 10 of that in the city. you are talking about that's about 50,000 people immediately.
Besides those who are employed directly, there is also the chain.
The chain.
The chain.
Okay, what about the cotton growers, the cotton harvesters, the spinners, those who yarn?
And Nigeria doesn't seem to be doing much in that.
They don't. That's what I'm saying.
area.
So, do you know that if government brings a policy that will bring back the textile industry, do you know the value chain? I'm telling you that more than half of what you're saying will be employed by default. That's it. And government is also benefiting. When we're talking about tax, you want to increase, tax regime. Do you know that even most of these advanced economy, and thankfully our man in Canada will also testify to that, even what we come from taxes alone, when people are working through pay and all of them, the government is also losing.
Exactly.
So the UN, the Empower you're talking about, they are not meant to last forever. They are like a stopgap.
We practically see the
like
telecoms industry. How many people, when you talk about numbers, how many people do the telecommunications companies employ?
That's it. But do you know it's a huge one?
Exactly.
Those who are selling the recharge card, they are also part of the industry. And it is the policy of bringing legalizing, or is it no, liberalizing that sector that brought about these chains of employed youths. You go over, you drive on any street, you see them, and these are people who are gainfully employed, not necessarily on the payroll of all these other companies. But you know, they are part of them.
Exactly.
That's the what government should be thinking, not about Empower. Empower, they are only is only acting as a stopgap.
Okay.
There's no job security in all these policies.
Yeah, in fact, they say there was going to be 2 years. It was going to run for 2 years.
After that, what happened?
And then after then, they could maybe reorganize it and see how they can relaunch it, as the case may be. Let's bring in back Oluwaseun Olubu here from on Skype from Canada. Now, the oil sector or the oil industry is not employment elastic, and we know that it is where the larger amount of revenue comes in for Nigeria. A lot of economists like you and other people who are monitoring the system have advised that there should be a deliberate diversification of the economy where other sectors like manufacturing, agriculture and all of that, even solid minerals, ICT can be stimulated and activated. What do you see happening in that regard?
You know, the doctrine of diversification is good, but it's become too familiar with us in Nigeria. And because it's become too familiar, people use the word loosely, and it's lost its potency. A lot of people just lash on the word. Politicians talk about diversification, and I don't want to talk about, because if you want to delve into that, we're going to spend a lot of time on that. Now, but to speak to what you said specifically, there's nothing bad in having a sector of the economy being the cash cow. What is bad is when you lack either the political will or the capacity to use the sector that's the cash cow today to build other sectors of the economy.
You think Nigeria lacks the capacity?
Is that what?
I said you think Nigeria lacks the capacity?
I would say yes. I would say no. I might say I would say no in terms of, because we do not like the capacity in terms of manpower as to those that the manpower needed to do this, but we like the capacity. We like the capacity in terms of galvanizing because it's not everyone that has access to the boardroom, if you like, if I call it, where decisions are made and where the shots are called. That's one. And the second thing that I think we need to mention is that we've not even asked ourselves in this whole of this conversation what brought us to where we are in terms of the causes of this unemployment. Because if you know the causes of this unemployment, it might be helpful in terms of profiling solution to it.
Maybe you should help us with that, really.
Okay, so yes. when I got the invite, I was thinking that why are we here where we are? I broke the problems into three. One, legacy problem, which is more structural. Year in year, it's not about whether Buhari or Atiku or Jonathan, regardless of who has been our president over time, over the years, something has been a fundamental issue in the economy, which is a taste for imports, imported goods, the structure of the economy in terms of the structure of our budget, the things that we spend money on year in, year out, to give more priority to recurrent expenditure. And there's lack of political will and even sincerity on the part of people. So that's for legacy. Now, on the part of fiscal policy, I don't think we're doing enough. Now, you can't have a budget of about 8 trillion, between 8 and 9 trillion naira. That is about between 24 or 25 billion dollars as a budget of for an economy that's about that houses about 200 million people. How on earth can you create jobs with that kind of size of the budget? That's one. Two, which is more worrisome, is the structure of the economy in terms of what percentage that goes to recurrent expenditure relative to what goes to capital expenditure, where jobs can be created. Now, the part of the recurrent expenditure is so sad that if we dissect it, some of these things go into ghost worker and all sorts. The last point I will make is also monetary policy. For the life of me, for almost how many months now, MPR has been at 14%, which is a benchmark rate for interest rate, and which means that every other interest rate takes a cue from the benchmark rate. Which, little wonder you can't get loans for anything below 20%. Think about it, Ngozi and Michael. Yeah. What kind of business can you do? So it means that access to capital is almost non-existent, and when people don't have access to capital, how on earth do they want to do businesses, and how do you create jobs? And of course, there are usually value chains along. So if a business is not able to do business, or is a business's going concern is threatened because of lack of capital, then there's an issue.
All so right. Shina, let me bring it to Remi Dairo here in the studio. In addition to all the things that he just reeled out now, there seems to be a lack of strategy too, a deliberate strategy, because this huge population of unemployed persons in Nigeria, including the 65% unemployed youth, can actually be used positively, to drive the manufacturing sector. Yes.
The government is still working with the old method of, getting things done. I don't know where
the old template.
Old template. Now, in the 21st century, it's a technology-driven, digital-driven, society. We can use the same technology to know how many people are unemployed. We don't. To start with. I'm telling you, I'm not sure the Bureau of Statistics knows exactly the numbers, because probably from their books. But the question, there are a lot of people who are not captured in that statistics. So the question is,
so it could be higher.
It could be much higher. Yes. Now there are people under the bridge of Ojuelegba working. Not working to the exact time. To exact 40 capacity.
Hours a week.
So are they captured? Probably no. So the question is, if you
so when you're looking at the unemployment rate, you're looking at both the formal and informal. That is what you should look at.
Yeah. Okay. So there's something that cuts across all. That is the technology, the mobile. I'm just giving solution now. Yeah. So if there's an application that shows if you're unemployed, click here, and then we have that data. So there's not even data. So we have the right data to say, okay, this is the number of people unemployed. Okay, if you're a student in school, if you're in university 300 level, before you go to 400 level, before you graduate, how many numbers do you have? Let's have that data. Now, if you're serving, you're a copper, you're NYSC, or you work somewhere, you're doing IT, how many? Let's have that real raw data. Then let's now go to the society, to organization, textile, in telecommunication, different sectors. How many jobs are you, providing? Okay, let's get it. Click here. Let's have that. Okay, what are the skills that are available? Now, most times, it's not that there are no jobs. The skills gap is very far. The gap is too wide. What you learned in school is not what they're looking for outside. Exactly. So automatically there's unemployment.
It raises the question of unemployability of some of the people. Exactly.
So that is one of the factors. So the question is, can the government ask the question, what are the new skills now? Can we introduce that to our education? I expect us to fight on some of these things.
Yeah, but Remi, the point there is, there seems to be a disconnect between what government plan is and what are the new trends coming out.
Exactly.
Now, you mentioned ICT now. If you go to Yaba, for instance, or Sabo Yaba, for instance, and you see what young people are coming up with, they call it the Silicon Valley of Nigeria. Yes. In fact, they had to attract Mark Zuckerberg to come to Nigeria. Government is Sabo Yaba in Lagos, and that is not. That government is not even taking advantage of that yet at all.
Big opportunity. Now,
well, maybe hopefully with the 6, ICT villages or planned, technology hubs, which the president talked about in the 6 geopolitical zones.
It's planned. The political statement. We are going to make this happen. I'm talking about practical solution to this practical problem here. Now, if we get the data, at hand, then we can now plan with the data. And we can now say, these are the raw number of people that are unemployed, underemployed, and looking for a job. Then these are the opportunities available. These are the gaps. These are the gaps, skills gap. Then let's go and train them on the skills gap to be able to match up with the job of today. And let me quickly say this. The jobs of 21st century is no more local. We can prepare them for global opportunities.
Right. Now, just to quickly tie into that is that if we are looking, all these things, they are all grandiose plans, grandiose ideas. But you see, at the heart of this is the curricular system. Because the biology of this world that we have always been taught, I give you a joke. Somebody told me, a friend of mine, that when he was in school, he was taught to find X. If X is this, find X. He said when he went to the bank, he said he never saw X.
I've been looking for
he never saw X.
And that's why I was never good at math. Confession.
He's been looking for X for the rest of his life.
You told him it's good to find X. He never found X in the banking form. So we need to find a way to get a curricular system to get into how it will fit into this century. What I'm saying first is that when you teach people all this, the British system of those days when we got independence, there's this curriculum, and the curriculum it has something to do with today's trend. So what we need to do is that we need to focus on the very basis of the UBEC education and the 633 system, where, for instance, a child who goes into GSS 1 to 3, he learns vocation. Is vocation driven. So that even if he cannot go beyond GSS 3, he can get a skill.
He has some basics.
Yeah, so he doesn't have to depend on government. All he needs to do is that you also make microcredit available so that people like that could also access it and set up cottage industries that we have helped to absorb this teeming youth.
Okay.
But what do? We make people to run through schools. You must go from class 1 to class 2 and finish it, and then go to university and then certificate. And then the certificate will earn you nothing.
All right, let's bring in Oluwashina Olugbo here. The point there is, okay, we're about rounding off, but let me ask you, everyone has talked about the fact that government cannot provide all the employment by itself.
It shouldn't.
It has to be able to create an enabling environment for companies and individuals to rise up and, come up with all of those. Now, how can this conducive environment be created in Nigeria?
See, thank you so much. I mentioned earlier, it was deliberate when I mentioned budget the other time, and I tried to look at it from the angle of the economy. I do not disagree with the fact that there is an issue with the curriculum, if you like. But I have been asking myself that the very basic things that we learned in school, how complex is our sectors in Nigeria that those basic things cannot be used in those things? I've asked myself severally. So the truth is, the jobs are not just there. So it's not as though the jobs are there, the skills required and are such that the labor force that we have cannot match them. That's one. Now the second thing, to go specifically to your question, is that I think that infrastructure is a major thing in terms of trying to create an enabling environment. One, then two, policies is second thing. The third thing is regulation. So when all of these are there, it helps to create an enabling environment for those who will come in and the last point I will make in terms of the government being helped is that government should engage in a lot of PPPs. You said it before. private capital is always there. If you
engage
the private sector,
we have to leave it there.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Remi Dairo is a productivity expert. Charles Ideho, journalist and social commentator. Of course, Olubu is an economist. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us this morning. Hopefully, this time next year, the numbers would have improved.
All right, we hope so. Let's go on a break, and top of the hour, but time for the news update. Stay with us on TVC Breakfast.